just for the record or the video that we posted after. Just starting with an HB pencil here. I'm just waiting to see if anybody watches. If they don't, that's fine. This is only my second live ever, so hopefully it's not a complete disaster. But I'm just going to start drawing trees, and if people pop on to watch, they can. But all I'm doing here with my HB pencil is going to start lightly working the bottom layer of these trees with little lines and dashes going in the direction of all of our branches. It's pretty much the same thing I do in my how to draw a forest tutorial. If you want to watch that after. Watching it in real time like this can be a slow and tedious process. So I thought, hey, maybe I'll try going live. I can make some progress on my project and maybe connect with some people. Or maybe I'll just draw by myself, and that's fine. This is a drawing of Mount Rainier, a photo I took from the Reflection Lakes area. Very sort of iconic spot in the park. Just doing the initial layer here with my HB pencil, keeping it pretty light. The trees are kind of in silhouette here, and I'll go over this after with a 2B pencil. But just keeping it pretty loose here. You really can't make a mistake. I do have a reference image that I'm looking at, mostly for inspiration. I'm not really trying to mimic it exactly at this scale. It'd be next to impossible to make it exact, so just being pretty loose and rough with it here, and we'll refine as we go and build those layers. Just light little taps following the direction of our branches of these evergreen trees here. Just these light little taps, and then as we go over layer by layer, we'll really build that texture. You want to make sure to lift your pencil up so you leave little bits of white. And we're going to go back and fill a lot of that in with our 2B pencil, but also you just want to really develop those highlights and shadows at this scale that are super subtle. And I'm just going to do this little 1 inch by 1 inch square here. And if we get beyond that within the hour, I'll move on to the next one. But that's really all my goal is for today, is just that little square. Let me see if I can get this a little closer. Maybe a little closer would be better. Get a better view of it, maybe. Maybe that's a little better. Hard to tell. Once I get through this layer with my HB pencil, I'm going to go over all this with my 2B pencil and really start to form that texture of all those little evergreen trees and branches. And then probably use a little bit of eraser too to refine anything. But you really can't make any mistakes. I'll zoom out wide here. I mean, once you kind of have the foundation of the trees, like, you know, up here, you're really sort of setting this. Up here is really defining what you're looking at, because you can see these trees really easily. And when you get into this sort of area where you just sort of see all this sort of craziness, you can almost let the details go a little bit more, because you've already sort of established that we're looking at a forest here. But I still want to achieve a high level of detail, so we'll do what we can to really lock in those details between building the texture and going back with our eraser here. That's good for now. We can go back in and add more of that HB pencil, but I'm going to go in with my 2B pencil, and that's kind of what I use for my shadows here. I got to use mechanical pencils because, again, the details are so small that if I used a regular pencil, I would just be sharpening every 2 seconds. So now I just go back with the 2B, leaving light little taps, making sure to lift up so some of that HB shows through, but also leaving little bits of white just to have small little highlights that will come through. But it's a very tedious task. That's why when I do my tutorials, I do a lot of time lapses, because if you watch this real time, it takes a long time, and it's not the maybe most entertaining thing to watch, but when you step back after completing a large chunk, it's pretty cool to see what you've created. Especially when you are working to get all those realistic details, and in the end they actually look realistic. But I wanted to take this time today, try one of these lives, and also in making these tutorials for the last few months, I've kind of had this drawing on the back burner. I've been working on it for like, I don't know, 7 months, but for the last 4, I barely work on it. So it's just staring at me, and I would really love at some point someday to finish it. So I thought maybe people would enjoy kind of watching me work on it live, and if you have questions, or just watch and see. It really is just, though, small little dots kind of very, very slowly building all these textures and shapes. But again, if you want to watch the tutorial, it's how to draw a forest. That's where I put all my landscape drawing tutorials in. The thing is, this technique of layering, like a lighter value pencil over a darker, I mean, that can get you like 80% of the way on building most nature textures. Not all of them, but like if you're struggling with drawing something, just applying or thinking about how can that work to your benefit. Because like, as opposed to like drawing animals where getting the shape and scale is so critical. A lot of times with landscapes and like different, grass or rocks or whatever, it's about getting that texture right. And so if you're struggling, just try to layer your pencil values. Because also the other thing is you'll slowly build whatever the object you're drawing is. You're going to slowly work towards building that or drawing that. So if things aren't looking right, you can adjust a lot quicker rather than just like drawing. If I were to draw the outline of these trees and then go back to fill it in, you're going to have to probably do a lot more adjustments. Whereas this way, I'm moving so slow that I can adjust things on the fly a lot easier. But yeah, other than that, just be comfortable going slow and don't rush. I mean, unless you're doing a quick sketch. But like for this one, like this, I'm hoping will end up on our wall at some point if I ever actually finish. And then I want to make sure I get everything exactly how I want it. And hopefully you can see on the iPhone here, I just have a regular iPhone. If these streams go well, I'll get a better camera, but hopefully you can start to see a little bit of this texture that's developing where it's like, this is 1 by 1 inch square. So to get that amount of texture on these trees and have them read as trees is something I've been really happy with this technique so far. So that's looking pretty good for the first layer of 2B pencil here. Let me show you. It's a little hard to see I have a light behind me, but here's the, let me turn this light off. Here's my photo of Mount Rainier that I took that I'm drawing. So this top layer, I'm right here. It's pretty dark. So I'm going to do a darker layer of shadows here. This is the square I'm on. So you can see we're all in the dark shadows and blacks here. So I'm going to do one more layer of shadows with my 2B pencil here. I think actually you guys can see better that way, but I can't see that way. So hopefully you guys can see that. So I'm going to go over this one more time and then try to frame out. There's a few trees sort of developing down here. So I'm going to get my shadows on this top layer even better here. This photo was taken just after sunrise, so a lot of the sun isn't hitting these trees. They're kind of silhouetted against the mountain. But again, I don't necessarily need this to be 100% the same as that reference photo. I like to really work little details like that where you can see the depth and all the layers of trees I really like. So if it doesn't match, that's fine. I just want to make sure we can see a second layer of trees coming in here. Add to that realism. But you can see going layer by layer again. I'm just slowly developing and refining these details rather than if I were to just draw those trees in and work sort of the opposite way where I draw the shape in. I'm slowly defining the shape with my textures. And these will come more into focus when I get down to this square, because these are, when I fill in down here, this will be lighter leading up to the tops of these trees. Right now, you're just sort of seeing that, the top of the very, very tip top of the tree. But these top like 6, 7 trees up here are against the white snow of Mount Rainier, so they really are in silhouette. So this is kind of like the darkest shadows of the forest here. Can everybody see that okay? Or should I try to get this closer? Closer if you can. Okay. Let me I've got another light over here. Get turned on. Okay. Is that any better? Hopefully you can see a little better. The phone is a little bit more, the camera's a little bit more in my way now. But we'll see how that goes. About the same, no worries. Okay. Sorry, I'll try to get a better setup if I do these next time. But it's essentially just little taps, and I feel like I'm just starting to work this bottom layer of trees here, and then we're gonna fill in the bottoms on our next square here. But kind of like over here, you're starting to see all this small little textures with our just by making little dots and lines in the direction of the branches with the HB, leaving some white spots in there, you get to see all of that tree texture. Let's move on to this next one, and maybe it'll be, there's a lot less shadows in this one. So maybe we can it'll show up a lot better. It's a little bit lighter. So I'm gonna start with my 2B pencil. This is like the most tedious task, because I always just fill up the whole square with these textures. And then, because, you know, with your lighter values, it's a lot easier. You can go over with your darker value pencils and just sort of frame out your trees afterwards. But making little branches like this just can really take a long time. Again, that's why I like, if you want to watch a more condensed version of this, check out How to Draw a Forest, my tutorial, How to Draw a Forest. I'm working on the same drawing. I don't know if it's the same people here, but so here's how much of this forest I've drawn here. So in my How to Draw a Forest tutorial, I'm drawing one of these squares back here, but it's just this repeated task over and over, layering light values to dark values, kind of working from your more highlighted shades, or more your lightest shadows, and then filling in your darker shadows over the top is what is the basic process for building this texture. And you just want to keep your little lines and dots as small as you can. Hey, thanks. Yeah, thanks for this drawing is impressive. I don't know if you were here earlier. I've been working on this for, I don't know, 8 months or something like that. But for the last 4 or 5 months, I've been focusing on all of my drawing tutorials. So it's really been on the back burner. And I thought I could sort of do two things where engage with people, hopefully help them draw, if they're looking to draw forests, help them with that, but then also make a little progress on it. Not that I'm necessarily going to finish today, but at least get back a little bit back into the rhythm on it. But it's hard to make progress when, so my day job is working on television shows. And so in my spare time, for the most part, I've been working on these tutorials, but editing the tutorials, that's what I do all day. I'm an editor. So editing for work and then editing my drawing videos and having to listen to myself, you sort of run out of gas. So when it comes to working on this project, I'll just sort of put it on the back burner and not make a lot of progress sometimes. But yeah, this is kind of like the slowest part of the process, because you really want to keep these little lines and dashes as small as you can to mimic the scale of your tree or your trees. Yeah, yes, it does take so much patience. Oftentimes, I'm going a little bit faster here because I don't want you guys to get bored. But a lot of times, each of these little squares will take me 45 minutes, especially when you get into like some of these previous ones back here. I mean, like this, I don't even really know what I'm doing I know I'm building, my only goal is to build the texture. Like you can't really see the trees in here. Up here, you get a lot more. I'm layering this lighter value, and then I'm framing it out with my 2B pencil up here. So up here, I have a lot more of a plan, but looking at my reference image and getting to sections like this, it's just all about building the texture and sort of filling up the square, but it can be really time consuming to build all that texture. And like the mountain up here, which may not seem like it, but these take me even longer. So I'm really procrastinating up here because like some of these little squares, do you use reference? Yeah. Here, I'll show you my reference image. So this is, I gotta turn this light off again. This is a photo I took of Mount Rainier a couple of years ago. We just moved out here to Washington. So this is the photo I'm looking at. And like the mountain, I'm trying to get exact, but like the trees, I'm just trying to get in the ballpark, and it's more of an inspiration. So like I'm trying to match my deepest shadows here, and you can see on mine, like I'm building in these little layers because that's like the realism that I want. But in terms of exact detail in those trees, I'm not too worried about that. I just want to make sure my forest looks like a real forest. The highest compliment I get, and I've had some people that live by me, I say, hey, come check out this drawing. They'll say, oh, I thought that was a photo. And that's kind of like the highest compliment. But yeah, the vantage point, there's a really popular spot in Mount Rainier National Park. It's by the Paradise area, if anybody's familiar with that. But just down the road from that, there is the Reflection Lakes, and lots of people go there. If you go to that area, make sure you go as early as you can. I aim to get there. The first time I ever went there, I got there at 6:30, and the parking lot was like, it was like 90% full. Oh, from the UK. Well, if you ever make it, it's a very, It's a very cool park, Mount Rainier National Park. From the UK, though, that's cool. Thanks for tuning in. Yeah. If you come out, Jolly Michael, you message me and I'll meet you there. I'm about an hour and a half, 2 hours from the park. I'll show you the exact spot I took this photo. Oops. Yeah, I use a grid. It's mostly for the mountain. Like again, the trees, I don't care if I get accurate, but also what I've realized in, doing this in not just my spare time from work, but my spare time now from my YouTube videos, is it allows me to like these little 1 by 1 inch squares are kind of like a goal I can set for the day. But yeah, I put them on my reference image just to sort of keep track of where I'm at. Because again, the mountain I'm really shooting to get as accurate as possible. Okay. Michelle, sorry. You have a book? No, I do not have a drawing book. I just have my YouTube tutorials so far. I just started in October, or end of September. And the first video I posted was how to draw how to draw a forest. And I just posted it because I was drawing it anyways, and I thought I didn't know that it would turn out so well, like people would be that interested. So far, everything I have on teaching landscape drawings is just on YouTube. But the more I learn about YouTube, I feel like I'm really going to commit to it because, again, working on TV shows, TV industry for the last couple of years has had quite a downturn. And so I thought, how could I use my skills? I'm an editor on TV shows. How could I use my skills to sort of grow my own thing? And that's kind of how my whole YouTube channel all came about. Yeah, look up, if you go to my page, if you're looking for landscapes specifically, I have a playlist, techniques to draw any landscape. If you're looking for how to draw a forest, the tutorial that I did on this drawing is how to draw a forest. And that there's a lot more time lapses so you can see my process quicker. Yeah. Thanks, yeah, check them out. I think I got like 15 of them now. Maybe not that many, but I'm just trying to slowly grow and see what happens. And again, and researching a lot of YouTube stuff. I'm switching to a 2B pencil now. That was 2H for my lighter shadows. But in researching a lot of YouTube, like a lot of the hangups people have are they don't have editors, or editors are too expensive. And since my day job is an editor, that's like the easy part for me. The hard part is being on camera. And I think for me, another thing is sort of articulating what's going through my brain as I draw is, I've realized, takes a lot more than I would have thought. I think a lot of times I just sort of intuitively do things. You can see here my HB pencil, I'm getting darker and just adding in some, yeah, I'm going to keep layering so that I start with a lighter value, and now I go back with a darker value, and you should start to see the tree developing more here. And then I'll go back one more layer. Yeah, so I label all of mine with this little piece of tape. That's what these pieces of tape are. So yeah, I started with a 2H and then going with the HB, and then the last layer will be with this 2B pencil here. And if you're drawing bigger trees, you don't need to necessarily use mechanical pencils like I am here, but the scale is really small. A lot of the times here, I'm just making dots. It's almost more like pointillism than drawing, kind of, but Former draftsman, cool. What's what's former drafts? What is a draftsman? I'm returning drawing after 30-year break. So one of the things I'm working towards here is, for people who were here earlier, there's slightly lighter experience with civil engineering maps. Okay. Cool. Yeah. I mean, for a long time, when I was first starting out in television, I wasn't making art. Because I do more than just drawing, but drawing is what people connected with first, so I just kind of stuck with it. Yeah, I'll use an eraser. What I like to do, well, it's a little deceiving. I like these. It's a, what is this, a Faber-Castell eraser? Yeah. But I like to use these because you can get exact with it. And also, here's the thing, it's an eraser, but it's kind of bad at erasing. So you can just sort of pick off that top layer to erase slightly, right? And the good thing is you're only erasing that top layer, so it kind of does it slower. So if you need to adjust, you have more time before taking off too much. You can do it slowly, layer by layer. So this is what I'll normally do to sort of, I'll just do it up here because you can't really mess this up. But so like if this one had, if this tree here, if you could see some of the trunk, I'm just going to slowly start sort of sliding it in. And it's too thick right now. I've got to sharpen it. There's a little off center there. But see, it took quite a bit there, and then I would go back in and fill that in. So you just get that tiny sliver in the scale of it. I don't know if you can even see that. Whoa. So it'd be like that. And I wouldn't do it in 10 seconds like I just did. I would spend more time on it. Hey, that view's not bad. Is that view better? Is that too close? It's a little pixely on my end, but maybe that's better for you guys. But yeah, so that's how I like to use this pencil eraser thing. The Perfection 7056. They have another one which has a white tip on the end, but I don't think that one erases as well. Okay, better close up. Okay, cool. I'll leave it like that. Let me adjust because the phone is now directly in my view. Never too close. Yeah, I need to figure out a way to see when I shoot my tutorials, when I record my tutorials, I use my DSLR, so I have my huge camera with these big lenses. I need to figure out a way to do that on here. But I'll be honest, I didn't know if people were going to show up. And then I got nervous right before thinking, what if a lot of people show up? So like 4 to 5 people right now, that's like perfect for me, because if there were like 30 or 40, I'd probably stutter even more than I am. But I think this is more containable for my second live stream. Okay. Sorry, I got to adjust because the camera, it's good view for you, but the camera is right in front of me. So let me just take a second here. The other thing that I do, let me just put this piece of paper here. I was thinking, too bad you do not have more. Do you mean that I don't have more viewers or live streams? Either way, I'll do more live streams. But you know, starting off with a few people is good. But so back to the erasing. So what I'll do with this is a piece of sandpaper. And you see me in my tutorials, I do this all the time, is you sharpen it like this, and it leaves it rough. So it's similar to building all that texture with a 2H, HB, and a 2B and layering it. leaving your eraser rough so you have all these tiny little details or tiny little variations. Yeah, I wish I had more viewers. No, this is good for me. If I had too many, I feel like I'd be even more flustered. But it's good to start off slow. But so you have all those little textures from the sandpaper, and now that can add little variations when you're erasing, so it doesn't erase evenly, and it's just another way to build even more texture. I'm actually drawing through the phone right now, so some of this is getting a little messed up, but I'll go back and fix that. I just want to make sure you guys get some good value and tips here. The other eraser I love to use, which I suggest all the time, is these electric erasers. So that's the other way, like to put in that trunk that I just did. That's another way I'll do it. But this is normally if I need to make a bigger adjustment. So again, and tell me if this is repetitive from my tutorial, if you like seeing this, because I go over all this in the How to Draw a Forest tutorial. But so I'll sharpen it on that sandpaper, and I wouldn't normally do this over my drawing, but moving the phone is a little tedious. So I'll do it. So I'll sharpen it so it's a little bit sharp, and going more than that is better. So you can get a pretty sharp tip. And no matter how sharp you get it, you're probably going to erase a little bit. But, you know, we've built all this texture. Going back and filling in just that little gap is pretty easy. That's another way to put that trunk in, especially if you have gone maybe a little too dark and this Faber-Castell one isn't quite cutting the mustard. Let me see, I still have all my drafting tools, including, the electric eraser is huge. Maybe examine setup for next live stream to make it. Yeah, definitely, I'll definitely figure out a better way to set this up. Many of us beginners tend to draw too quickly instead of planning and taking our time. Yeah, well, I think drawing too quickly when you're just starting can be a good thing for learning. I think the bad part there is if you're trying to make a drawing that you're going to frame on the wall, then obviously you want to take a step back and reevaluate. But I think for me, it's all about the commitment to how far you want to focus on the details. And if you were, I'm not sure if you were here, Dean, I don't know if you were here before, but these squares, yeah, keep me in line with my reference image. But another thing is they set my goal for my drawing. So like, again, with my day job and working on my YouTube videos, I often only set a goal of one of these squares per like session, which can take me like 40 minutes. But a lot of times for me, 40 minutes that's all I have to draw sort of for myself for the day. So I think setting up your expectations of what the point, where you want the end goal of your drawing to be, I think that is how you should justify the speed of taking your time for drawing. Like if you're just sketching in a sketchbook and you do it too fast, I wouldn't be mad at that because you can learn a lot. I mean, I have sketchbooks full of sketches that are bad and done too quickly. But when I commit to like this one, a drawing that I'm going to put on the wall, it's like I don't really move beyond these squares, beyond like a 1 by 1 inch square until I'm completely happy with it. Because otherwise, if I just keep moving along, I won't be able to keep my details to the level that I want to. But also some people just like the, sketchy, more sketched out look. And you might not necessarily be going for a realistic drawing. So anyways, hopefully that somewhat helped you, but do you grid your photo as well and scale up or down with larger or smaller grids? Yeah, I grid. I do put grids on my photos in Photoshop, and I put them on in Photoshop. But I used to, and I've done this, I'll do this in small sections, but I also will put a grid on it and then send it to get printed with the grid on it. So in Photoshop, it's really easy to do with layers, but I don't know, I'm guessing most people don't have Photoshop. But I thought about having some place where people could download the grid templates to drop on their photos. I just don't know how easy it is for people to do that. Again, with working in TV, I got a lot of experience in sort of other technologies like Photoshop and graphic design and stuff like that. So I just don't know how valuable that would be for people. But the other old school way, which I used to do, is you get your photo printed at the scale you want, and then I would actually just physically draw it. Similar to how I drew this grid, I would draw it directly on my reference image. Does that help at all? This is great for sketches like this. Okay, yeah, cool. Yeah, somebody commented once, oh, some people think using a grid isn't really drawing. It's kind of like, yeah, man, what am I doing then? For me, again, it kind of helps me set goals. And my reference image on these trees is just inspiration. Like, I'm not matching that dot for dot here. But yes, going back, next time, well, maybe not next time, but I'm going to look into how to use my DSLR to get you guys a better view and also get me a better view, because right now I'm contorting my body around the phone. And so, yeah, so I work in TV, but in college also how I know a lot of Photoshop stuff, which if people, I don't know how much people use Photoshop. But anyways, I took art classes in college. I took graphic design and communication classes in college. And my actual major was focused on television production. So I have a pretty wide range of skills that really help with sort of creating things and then also putting on YouTube and creating graphics on YouTube. I hope if my channel really grows and I can spend more time on it, I hope I can really up the value quality-wise of what I do on there. The zoom is much better. Good. There's some pretty cheap versions of Photoshop available, both as a monthly payment or one-time fee. Yeah, I have the Creative Cloud subscription. I use it a lot for work, and I use GIMP. Can you layer things in GIMP and work with PNGs, like PNG files? Because like I mentioned, I thought about making these grids and then just saying, hey, if you want to grid your reference photos, here are free grids. Good, thanks, Michelle. I'm glad people get a lot of it, because sometimes I get a little in my head, like, I don't know if people know what I'm talking about. Yes, okay. So Control-Alt-Delete, if I put and maybe I can test, I'll put like a PNG file and you would be able to use that. Just like, layer it on top. Like this red grid here, it's a 300 DPI grid at a 1x1 inch square. Maybe I'll just throw it up, and if people use it, they use it. I mean, it's really no loss to me. I've already made the grids. Cool. That's good info, because yeah, I'll put those up. I'll make those. I got to write a note of that. And I'm going to write down, bear with me one second. I'm going to write that down so people can get grids. Yeah, another way I'm hoping to build this channel and community, if, you know, as long as people watch, is somebody recently commented, "Hey, do you have a Patreon?" And I never really looked into it. Again, I think a lot of it's because I have my day job, so I don't kind of think in that way. But I'm going to start one of those. Another question: do people? So are people just looking for drawing tutorials, or is there interest in painting or other sort of personal projects that I work on? That's kind of also what I've been wondering. I know it seems like drawing is what I've attracted the most, which is cool, and I'm happy to. I mean, I love drawing. All right, I'm gonna switch to my 2B pencil here and start shaping this a little bit more. You can start to see, and I kind of try to avoid this. I want these little lines that form. It makes it too uniform. I want it to be really natural. So I'm just going to throw some little marks in here. I'm kind of getting caught up in just chatting, which is good. I like that people are asking questions. But now with my 2B pencil, just going over all that and starting to form out some of these trees a little bit more. This is really where the trees come together. So even in these dark little shadowy areas, I try to leave 45 minutes per square times how many squares? So this is, what is this, 16? I think my drawing here is 16 by 24. So whatever that math is. Algorithm tends to prefer a tight focus of growing a channel. Yeah, that's what I've kind of, I posted a photo on like this tiny bird painting. Did not go over well. But we'll see, you know, who knows. But yeah, I'm planning to just stick with drawing for the time being. But if you go back to like, so my actual channel, well, not actual, I started uploading videos like 8 years ago. There's like 3 of them of my initial, of a painting project I did, not to grow a channel, just because I wanted to show my artwork. But that's kind of like probably the best sort of art series I've ever created. There's these 6 paintings of these 6 different species of animals that have been persecuted. And then they're made up of words. So each painting took me like 8 to 12 months. And the first 4 or 5 months was just researching the animal and their story. And then I would condense it all down and write out the words in the shape of fur. And then sort of tell that story past, present, and future. If people are interested, I have one of the paintings right next to me I can show you, but I'll let you guys decide. Otherwise, I'll just keep drawing. But that's kind of, I've had some solo shows featuring that art series. I've won a few smaller awards, nothing like huge. But for, you know, an artist that is not known in any way, to get some recognition in that way has been pretty cool. I'm originally from Minneapolis, and where can we see the animals? So like the first couple videos on my YouTube channel are paintings. One is of a bee, there's a polar bear one, there's a sea turtle, there is a grizzly bear. The two that aren't up there is I've also done a bison and a wolf. But let me just, I'll just bring this over. Come on a journey with me. This is so you don't have to leave the feed. Here's where I live in Washington. So here's the polar bear one. So, right, you think, oh, that's a nice drawing of a polar bear. But then you get in closer, and these are all words telling the story of, polar bears and past, present, future, how they were hunted from boats, how climate change is affecting them, what the future is looking like for them. So this series took me 6 years. This is just one of 6 paintings. What size lead are you using? So the size lead is a 0.5 millimeter and a 0.3 millimeter. Here's my setup. So this is how I'm looking through it. Ouch. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I was really proud of the idea because I'd never seen anything like it. And I think that's why it kind of got some recognition. And continues. The solo show I had was only a year ago. So I mean, I still they're still out there, still getting some attention. Yeah. The other thing that's really cool that I'm really happy about the project is, besides sort of besides hopefully inspiring people to create art, it also teaches people about conservation and what's sort of happening to the natural world. But also through print sales, because I started in 2018, through print sales, I've donated a little over $8,500 back to conservation groups fighting to protect these animals. So, I mean, obviously, I make money off the sales, but then I donate back. So it's not just like me, taking advantage in another way. There's actually a giving back. Currently waiting for my 3 million. Yeah. Yeah. Last night before this, this is waiting for the 0.3 millimeter lead to show up. Before this tutorial, I have one piece of lead in this 2B pencil, and I was drawing last night, and I was like, oh, if I go live for like an hour and I run out of lead, that's going to put an end to it, because with my 2B, this is the one that really does most of the work in sort of forming these trees. So for people who were here earlier, remember how I left these trees at the bottom? You can see they're starting to take shape now and show up. And even though I'm framing out the shadows around these trees, you want to put some of these darker shadows in the middle, because think the middle part of a tree where the trunk is, that's where there's the most branches. So that's where there's going to be the most shadow in there. Are the light areas you are not filling in currently going to be tree trunks? No, so the light areas I'm not filling in are the shadows. In between the trees. So those are kind of my guides for where I want to put the darker shadows. So you see there was one right here, and now I'm sort of putting little dots in a triangle going up. Or like there's sort of a one that comes up right here as well. They kind of run into each other. So I'll come down in that white area. And the other thing I have to remind myself a lot is on these is don't be too uniform. You know, sometimes you don't necessarily have to make all these in a tree-like shape, because if you do that, then it starts to look like you almost stenciled or clip art, you know, sort of did like little clip art trees on there. You want them to be random and each look a little different. Maybe not all of them look like your sort of, you know, traditional tree drawing. A lot of times with the tree trunks, I'll do what I did up here, although I got to fill this back in, and I'll erase those back in because that line is so small and you want to make sure to have texture on both sides of the line, that I just find it easier to do it that way. But yeah, even though I'm kind of framing out my trees like this, I want to make sure to go back in and put some little darker shadows in the middle where that tree trunk would be, and just kind of randomly doing dots all around. Yeah, so larger trees are actually probably easier to draw than this because you're working so small to develop all this texture. And a lot of it, you're developing all this texture, and a lot of it kind of with your randomness will get covered up. But if you kind of don't apply that base layer, you're gonna kind of have to work harder in the end to achieve it. Your scribbling look like trees. What exactly are you doing so scribbling doesn't look like scribbling? What am I doing so my scribbling doesn't look like, I don't know. Your scribbling looks like trees. What exactly are you doing so scribbling doesn't look like trees? I guess it's hard to, I mean, so you mean in this drawing right here? What am I doing so that it doesn't look like scribbling? I guess that's hard to say because you've watched while I've drawn these trees, so I'm trying to think of a way to articulate it. Controlled scribbling, you know, you're focusing on where those shadows are. I think you could, for scribbling, my goal is, and I do this on a lot of the different techniques, by scribbling, my goal is creating the texture. And the texture gives you sort of the ability to identify whatever that object in nature is that I'm drawing. Sorry, yes. Okay. Yeah, controlled chaos a little bit. Controlled chaos. And I think for me, it's about scribbling to create texture, and also working on where you want your highlights and shadows to lie. Hopefully that helped, Control Alt Delete. I'm not sure, but maybe. Okay. I think also the other thing is like, yeah, I'm scribbling, but like, so this is a 1x2 inch thing that I've been working on for 61 minutes. So there's a lot of finesse to the scribbling as well. Oh boy. Some of these I think I'm going a little bit too dark on, so I'll probably bring the eraser in. me just show you. That gives a little. So at the beginning, or at the close-up view, it does look quite, you can really see the scribbling, but again, it's sort of that cumulative effect of like doing that over all these little squares, you know, it really gives a good, you know, you can really see the forest there. But yeah, I'll probably just finish off this 2B and then call it good unless people have more questions. Yeah, so there are some trees in the foreground. Some trees are more white because there are some trees in the foreground on my reference image that are getting sunlight on them. So you can see them there. And so I matched that a little bit here, and it's a little bit harder to see because this light is super bright now. Maybe that's a little better. So I was trying to get those trees that were getting some sunlight on them. But in the reference photo, as it goes to the right, they actually get darker and darker. And so that's one of the things I'm mimicking. But you can know, again, I'm not trying to draw like every tree exact. It's more, I want that effect of the sun is hitting those trees on the left, and as we move to the right, it is going into more shadows. Whoopsies. Bear with me just 1 second here. Just trying to get this computer in the right spot. Okay. Just adding some randomness again. Add some shadows in the center of this tree. But nearing the sort of 3 layers of my pencil values on here, now I can take a little bit stock of the whole, this little section. Just add in a little bit of that top back. Very subtle. I'm just kind of tapping and rolling a little bit, just to give it a little variation. But I have a tendency, even though I say not to do it, to get in just patterns. And I don't want to do that. Another thing that I like using this eraser in particular, it's just sort of subtly taking off that top layer. It also smudges it a little bit, kind of like a blending stump, but in a good way, like in a way that I like, because it's sort of blending your highlights and shadows together a little bit. Because again, from this perspective, like if you zoom out, if I were to zoom out again, you're really not going to see like all these super fine details. Again, here, there's a tree forming that's going to come down here. It's going to be down here. So I'm just starting to shape those, similar to what I did up here. But then it's just going to be, repeatedly doing this over and over until I get, I have quite a few more squares to go over here. This is the edge. It's quite a bit more work to do. But hopefully this is a little more in depth than my step-by-step tutorial. Definitely showed you the whole process here. In the tutorial, there's some time lapses through it, but yeah, other than that, anybody have any final questions? Otherwise, I'll probably wrap it up. Thanks for watching. For people who have been here for a while, I was glad to only have, I'm up to 7 people now. But not that I was getting ahead of myself thinking I was going to get 50 people, but I was a little nervous about it. So I'm glad that there was an amount where I could answer. I think I got everybody's questions answered. But if anybody has any final questions, I'll probably wrap it up before I start another square. When will you next do a live? It'd be cool to do them every Saturday. I need to, as it was brought up earlier, I need to figure out a better setup so I don't, so you guys don't have to watch me move the camera around a lot. So I'll try for next Saturday, but the other thing I was thinking is next Saturday, recording another tutorial. But we'll see how it goes. Or maybe I might try during the week. Yeah, thanks for watching. Maybe, yeah, I'll try to get another live set up within the next 10 days. Let's say that. Yes, thanks everybody. Thanks for watching. And comment on, if you're watching some of the tutorials, comment with new tutorials you want to see. Play now, work later. I've been thinking about the glacier one you requested with all the crevasses. But yeah, if you have more, just comment on one of the tutorials and I'll write them down. So yeah, thanks for watching, everybody.